You'll be shocked at what this man has been through. This is the story of how I almost died as a kid home alone, possibly the most intense night of my life with too much happening at once. We're a family of 5. I was 10 at the time, my older brother was 14, and my little sister was 5. It was a Friday night, and my brother was out with his friends causing trouble. Suddenly, we got a dreaded phone call. I was in my room playing a Star Wars video game when I heard my mom start freaking out and crying. I got really scared and rushed to see what was wrong. My mom was on the phone with the hospital calling to inform my parents that my brother had been hit by a car. We were all shaken and really scared. My brother's leg was broken, but I don't know what else was said on the phone. My parents hurried to get their coats on, grabbed my little sister from her room, and asked me if I was okay to stay home alone. I said yes, and they rushed out to the car and left. I was, of course, really worried about my brother, but I didn't want to go to the hospital and see him hurt. I don't think my parents wanted me or my sister to either, but they didn't want to leave my 5-year-old sister home without them. My brother recovered just fine, and his injury is no longer relevant to the story except for being the reason why I was left home alone on a Friday night before my dad left. He was trying to calm down my mom, telling her my brother was going to be okay. Seeing my dad like that made me feel better. I felt like my mom was just being dramatic, like any mom would be. I continued playing the Star Wars game for a couple more hours when I heard the front door open. I had my bedroom door closed. By this point, it was easily past midnight and past my bedtime, so I turned off the TV and PlayStation and crawled into my bed with my Game Boy. I tried listening to hear my parents' voices, maybe to see if my brother was with them or just to hear what they were saying, but I didn't hear anything. After a few minutes of not hearing them even come up the stairs, I had a feeling something was wrong. I quietly opened my door and walked over to the banister that overlooked the living room. The lights were off, but there were 3 tall people standing in my living room. They weren't my family. I was so petrified that I was frozen for a second before I could quietly walk back into my room and shut the door as quietly as I could in my fear. But it wasn't quiet enough, and I knew it. They had to have heard the door click shut, even if just slightly. I hurried to my closet, opened it quietly, stepped inside, and shut the door. I hid behind a bunch of boxes and bags of clothes that was stuffed in my closet. I was pretty well hidden from view. There was a short period that felt like forever as I anticipated my bedroom door opening, and it did. At that moment, I knew I was going to die. I heard footsteps walk into the room. I couldn't tell how many people there were. It might have been 1, it might have been 2. I heard the footsteps move to my bed, and I heard my covers being moved, then silence, then more footsteps toward the closet door, then silence for a few seconds, and then the closet door opened. My heart was in my throat. By this point, all I did was sit quietly and hold my breath. The door was open for a really long time, but I didn't look up. I didn't move. It had to be a good 20 seconds of silence before the door closed again. Footsteps walked away from the door, then out of the room. I finally looked up and realized that from where I was crouched down behind the bags and boxes, I might have been visible to that person. It wasn't until probably an hour later that I heard my parents return. I ran downstairs to them. The front door was left ajar by the people who broke in, and they had stolen a number of valuables from our house. It was a night that went from bad to worse for our family. My parents were in such a rush when they left for the hospital that they apparently didn't even lock the door. I was lucky not to have been killed or kidnapped. I look back now and really wonder if the person who opened in the closet and just stood there for 20 seconds saw me hiding in there. Maybe he was just a guy that came to rob her house, not to kidnap or hurt a child, or maybe he just didn't see me and I narrowly escaped death or injury.